Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Amanda Kramer, and I am the Alumni Engagement Program Manager at the University of Colorado Boulder's Leeds School of Business. Leeds is a top business school offering undergraduate, MBA, MS, and PhD programs, and has an alumni network over 41,000 strong. We're so excited to have Deborah Jason here today presenting on So You're on LinkedIn, Now What? For today's webinar. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, if you have any questions now or during the presentation that you would like to ask Deborah, please send a question through the chat interface. I will monitor questions as they are submitted, and Deborah will respond to them at the end of the presentation. As a reminder, for optimum audio quality, we do have everyone on mute except for myself and our speaker. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please notify us through the chat interface, and one of our support specialists will touch base. Lastly, a link to access the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants tomorrow, along with the survey link and supplemental resources from today's presentation. Now, I'm so excited to introduce today's speaker. Deborah Jason started her copywriting business, The Right Direction, from scratch more than 30 years ago. In addition to her copywriting business, she is a national speaker, marketing mentor, and the author of the award-winning book, Millionaire Marketing on a Shoestring Budget. She has guided hundreds of professionals in creating robust and optimized LinkedIn profiles that help them open the doors to receiving more opportunities. Welcome, Deborah, and thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand the control over to you now.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you to everyone for taking time out of your day to join us for this program. We are going to be talking about LinkedIn. And the first question before we get started with all the material is, what is your experience with LinkedIn? So maybe you have no experience at all and you're just getting started, or you have a profile but you haven't really used the network. Maybe you're on LinkedIn every day, or maybe you're just on the network weekly. So what is your experience with LinkedIn? So I'm seeing some are saying I use it to connect with friends and business associates. Somebody's saying none yet. Feel free to answer where you're at with LinkedIn and what brought you here today. Because somebody actually is saying they mainly use it for weekly for networking, and that's great. I want you to know that 73% of the professionals who are on LinkedIn use it for networking, okay? It is about building and nurturing relationships, and we're going to talk about that some more. But the next question for you is, you're probably on this webinar because you're feeling confused or frustrated about LinkedIn, so I want to know, what is it? What baffles you about LinkedIn? Maybe you want to know how. There you go. There's the poll. How do you create a robust, optimized profile? Maybe you want to know how to handle connection requests from people you don't know, or how do you get more profile views? The last one in the poll is, how do you receive more opportunities through the network? So the poll is up there on the screen. Click on the one that you resonate with the most when it comes to what baffles you about LinkedIn. All right, so here's the results. We've got 57% say you want to receive more opportunities through the network. Then you're in the right place today. You're actually in the right place for answers to all of these questions. But what I want you to remember first and foremost is that as a social network, being social on LinkedIn is really about getting engaged. It is about developing what we call the know, like, and trust factor. So there's a picture of an engagement ring there, and usually when I'm in a live presentation, I show you my mother's engagement ring, which I wear. So keep in mind that LinkedIn is about building and nurturing relationships. It's about what I call the KLT factor. This is Bob Berg, and if you're familiar with Bob's books, they're called The Go-Giver. He wrote them with John David Mann. And in that book, by the way, let me just backtrack a little bit. KLT stands for know, like, and trust. So that's the KLT factors. Bob Berg in his book says, all things being equal, people do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. So if you think about it, if you have a dentist or a chiropractor, somebody that you've been working with for many years, and they tell you they're retiring, then what do? Chances are you don't pick up your cell phone. You don't pick up Siri and say, give me a dentist in Boulder. And most likely you don't just go to Google and say, Google, give me a dentist in Boulder. My philosophy is what you will do is turn to somebody that you know, like, and trust. Maybe it's a family member or a friend or a relative or a colleague, or it could even be your retiring dentist, and you'll ask them for a referral. Who do you recommend? Because that's the first level of the know, like, and trust. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn, you want to have what we call a robust and optimized profile, because that helps you develop that know, like, and trust. What is a robust, optimized profile? It's a profile that's completely filled out. Because what you see here is LinkedIn says when you have a complete profile, you're 40 times more likely to receive opportunities through the network. So that's some of what we're going to talk about today, is what does it mean to have that robust, optimized profile? You see, people won't get to know, like, and trust you if they really don't learn anything about you when they visit your profile. And that applies to whether you're looking for a job or whether you are networking with industry professionals, whether you're trying to stay up to date on trends in your industry. Now, as we move forward, we're going to talk about 7 mistakes that people make on LinkedIn. And we're going to do this in a game show format. Sorry, but some of my slides are taking a little longer to load, so please bear with me here as we go through the joys of technology. And let's see if we can get these to forward. So Amanda, if you're there, right now, my slides are not forwarding. So we're going to do the best that we can. There we go. There are 7 mistakes that people make on LinkedIn. And to go over these mistakes, we're going to do it in what we call a game show format. The game show is called Fact or Fiction. So what I'd like you all to do, there's quite a few of you listening in. I want you to get a pen and a paper, because this is the Fact or Fiction LinkedIn game show. So when you have that paper and pen or paper and pencil, we're going to go through 10 different fact or fiction points, and you can play along and see if you get the answers correct. So are you ready? Number 1, fact or fiction. LinkedIn profiles with photos on them get 78 times more views. So write down whether you think this is fact or fiction. So the answer is, it's fiction. So that was kind of a trick question, but let me explain. So the first mistake that people make with their LinkedIn profiles is not having a photo. If you're in the online dating world, you probably have experienced this. When you get to someone's profile, if there's no photo, what you usually do is swipe left. So on LinkedIn, if you see a profile that looks like this, and by the way, I have Craig's permission to use this slide, what happens is you look at it and you think, gee, I don't think I want to know that person because I can't even see who they are. Here you go. Here's the correct statistic. LinkedIn profiles with photos get 14 to 21 times more views. So 78 was the trick. You don't get 78 times more views. When you have a LinkedIn profile with your photo, you get 14 to 21 times more views. So let's go on to fact or fiction point number 2. Here's the statement. It only takes 100 milliseconds to form an impression of someone from just looking at a photo of their face. So is this fact or fiction? Well, it is fact. And actually, the statistic that goes along with that comes from 2 social psychologists that say that 80 to 90% of the first impression is based on 2 qualities. So you're really making 2 impressions. Is that person trustworthy, and is that person competent? Remember, we were talking about know, like, and trust. So the importance of a good profile photo helps you convey whether you are trustworthy and competent. Now, take a look at this. We're going to do this as a poll. So, point number 3, fact or fiction? This is an actual photo posted on a LinkedIn profile. Do you think this is true or not? Yes or no? Take a moment to answer the poll. Is this an actual profile photo being used by a professional on LinkedIn? Yes, it is. It's almost so absurd that you have to go, my God, it probably is a LinkedIn photo. The next question is, what do you think this person does for a living? So, yes, it is a real LinkedIn profile photo, but what do you think this person does for a living? He is, ready? He's a certified public accountant. So does that picture of him, there it is in the middle of these several pictures, does that photo of him tell you that he's trustworthy and competent? Probably not. Not unless you're looking for somebody who maybe helps you hide things. Yeah, somebody says hacker. So the photo on the upper left, that little child photo, that person is an eye doctor. And he's not even a children's or pediatric eye doctor. So why does he have a photo of a child in his LinkedIn profile? And that's his profile photo. The photo of the baby below, that baby, that person is a caregiver. Now, if you had children or if you had adult parents, would you want to see a picture of that caregiver? Probably you would, as opposed to seeing the baby photo. So the woman in the upper right corner, by the way, I don't show you these photos to make fun of people. I really show them as a learning lesson for you. The woman in the upper right corner is a screenwriter and a playwright. My guess is that perhaps she was up all night when she took that photo. And the woman smoking in the lower right-hand corner, I was so amazed that somebody posted that as their profile photo. that I didn't pay attention to what she did. So the point here is to have a professional photo. It does not have to be a professional photographer that takes the picture. Almost everyone has smartphones, but please don't take that smartphone photo looking up your nose. Get someone to take your picture. If you happen to attend conferences or events or Chamber of Commerce meetings, many times there will be a photographer there who will take your headshot for free. They do it as a loss leader to gain business. So get yourself a nice photo. And the same holds true. I'm not sure how many of you here have company pages, but the same holds true for a company page. So if you have a company page, you want to have your logo and a background cover image. Companies that have logo images get 6 times more traffic to their pages. And the benefit of having your logo there means that when you have an employee who puts their profile on LinkedIn and lists you as the employer, your logo will show up on their profiles. So company pages, you want to make sure that you add images so that you stand out as a company. So let's go on to fact or fiction. Fact or fiction number 4, keywords. Keyword phrases. Okay, there we go. The use of keyword phrases is only important on your website. It's not important on your LinkedIn profile. Fact or fiction? It's actually fiction. So the mistake that people make is not optimizing their profiles for keyword phrases. You see, LinkedIn, like Google, is a search engine. So what would somebody search if they don't know you and they don't know your name? What's a keyword phrase that they would search? This slide I'm showing you, I have eliminated the person's name. The slide I'm showing you where it says owner and then blank day spa. Can we go back a slide? Sorry, folks, for the confusion here. There we go. One thing I want you to keep in mind, if you have a business, if you're on the call and you're the owner or the founder of a business, owner or founder is not a keyword unless you're looking maybe for angel investors or venture capital firms. They might be searching for owners or founders. An ABC company is not a keyword phrase unless you are, let's say, with Remax or a well-known company. So again, keep in mind, what would someone search if they don't know you, they don't know your name, they don't know your company? What's the keyword phrase they would use? Same holds true with company pages. So with company pages, what you want to do is make sure your description is keyword rich. And when you're looking at keyword phrases, you want to include words and phrases that describe your business or your expertise or the focus of your industry. So again, company pages and your personal profiles should include keyword phrases. And there's 6 places to put those keyword phrases. One in your personal profile is that professional headline I just showed you. We'll talk about some as we move forward. Let's go on to fact or fiction point number 5. Because you have a job description under your current work experience, you don't need to complete the summary section. And these days, the summary section also says about when you go to someone's LinkedIn profile. So, fact or fiction? What you're seeing in the lower right-hand corner is a sample of someone's current work experience, and you see it says over 50 countries worldwide and growing. Not the best description, but at least they have something there. So it is important, okay, that even if you have current work experience listed on your profile, that you don't make the mistake of, omitting a summary section. Okay, so the mistake that people make is not completing the summary section. Now what you see here, or hope to see in just a moment, is Angela's profile. Now, Angela was a client of mine. I do one-on-one consultations with people. We sit down for 2 hours in front of their laptop computer. This is what her profile looked like before. There's a few things I want to show you on this slide. One thing is the blue bar behind her profile photo. That's the constellation photo, and it's valuable real estate. You should have an image back there. That image allows you to put your website, your email, your phone number, however you want to be contacted. There's a tool that you can use to create that image. So I want you to write this down. That tool is called Canva, C-A-N-V-A, canva.com. So if you want to create that background image, it lets you upload a photo, it lets you add text to that photo, and then you can upload it to LinkedIn. Now, the other thing you'll notice on Angela's before profile is her name says Angela Gaffney, Keynote Speaker, Corporate Wellness. That's a no-no for LinkedIn. That's your name field, and only your name should be in the name field. You can have things like your MA or your MBA, that's fine, but no keyword phrases in your name field. When you go below Angela's name, you see the Daily Essentials Cookbook Collection Breakfast. That is called a professional headline. That is where you want keyword phrases. Okay, for Angela, she had the Essentials Cookbook. Unless people were searching cookbooks, that really isn't a keyword phrase for her. The other thing that you'll notice, since we're talking about the summary section, is she had no summary. So those are several points to keep in mind with Angela's profile. But here's what it looked like after we worked together. So after Angela and I worked together, you can see she now has a background cover image. It has her website, it has her email, it has her phone number. These things, by the way, are not clickable or linkable from that image. But look how easy it is for someone to find out how to contact Angela now. The other thing you'll notice is under Angela's name, there's her professional headline that now says Wellness Keynote Speaker, not just Keynote Speaker, because if someone searched Keynote Speaker, you'd get many, many results. She now focused, so remember, be specific, Wellness Keynote Speaker. She specializes in nutrition and stress management and work-life balance. Now she has a summary section, and here's what it looks like after we work together. You can see one thing I want you to notice. You have 2,000 characters in your summary section. Please, please, please don't write one really, really, really long paragraph. Break it up as you see in Angela's sample. She has 2 lines in the first paragraph. And what you want to make sure you do in your summary is share a little bit about who you are and how you help other people, okay? If you're looking for a job, how will you help another company? If you have a business, how will you help your clients or your prospects? For example, Angela is a wellness expert, but then she says she helps busy professionals achieve health. She shares a little bit about who she is. She said she's survived a health crisis that nearly took her life. But then she said she empowers others with wellness strategies to achieve better health. And you'll see that she has stress in there, she has balance in life, she has lower down, she has nutrition and work-life balance. Those are keyword phrases for her. So real quickly, one place for keyword phrases is your professional headline. Another place for them is in here, in your summary or your about section. I hope that's clear for all of you. If you have some questions, you can post them in the chat box that I believe Amanda is taking a peek at.
Yes, we do have a few questions that have come in. First of all, a couple of attendees are wondering if you could repeat the website that you mentioned when you were talking about the profile, the Canva website.
Sure. So that is called Canva. It's C-A-N-V as in Victor A, canva.com. When you go to that website, there actually is, I believe, a template that will say LinkedIn background image. if you can't find that, you can actually put in the dimensions that you need. And when you go to LinkedIn, you can find those dimensions. So canva.com, canva.com.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, Deborah. We're also getting several questions around endorsements. Are endorsements important, or do viewers see those as a way for a person to simply self-promote? Can you explain the uses and benefits of endorsements?
In a couple of slides.
Okay.
So let's hold off on that one.
Okay, great. And then messaging. I've had people tell me that messages take days to receive. Is this an issue with LinkedIn messaging? Stan has asked.
So the answer to that question is it doesn't necessarily take people days to receive them. The thing that might take days is people aren't always checking their LinkedIn inboxes. So I might send you a message today, but if you haven't been on LinkedIn today, you're not going to see that message. So for example, just yesterday I was on LinkedIn. I just came back from a conference. Before I went to the conference, I messaged someone on LinkedIn. Guess what? She responded to me after I got back from the conference. So it wasn't that she didn't get the message, she just hadn't checked. And she said, I haven't checked LinkedIn in a couple of days. So keep that in mind. The message will probably go through, but that doesn't mean the person is opening up your message right away.
Okay, great. And then we have a question from Emma. Is there a risk of getting too specialized with your keywords?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by risk. So, you know, the best, when we talk about marketing and promoting yourself and getting your message out there, you want to have a specific audience, a specific target market. And that goes even if you're looking for a job. You're probably looking for a job in a specific industry. So it's best to try to focus on that. I don't think, you know, the risk might be, if there's any risk, that maybe someone outside of that industry who might have been a good fit for you may not connect with you because you're so specific. But I think it's important that you be specific so that you can really target in and hone in on the people that you're trying to connect with.
Okay, great. And then the last question that we have right now is from Laura. I get emails from recruiters about jobs. They look personal, but then sometimes I find out it was a blast to a lot of people. I wish I knew which it was in the beginning so as not to waste my time responding. I've been told it is important to respond to all messages. Is this true?
So, yeah, you know, it's hard to say whether what you're receiving is a blast. Sometimes you can tell just by the language in it. So you might go, oh, you know, this, I can just tell it doesn't feel as personal. But it behooves you, depending on what your goals are, if it's a recruiter and you are looking for a job, it couldn't hurt you to respond because maybe that would be a perfect fit for you. If you're looking at it and you're going, you know, I just think it's somebody else just blasting me and they're not paying attention, I find, you know, LinkedIn is about conversations and building and nurturing relationships. So the worst that could happen if you answer that blast is maybe that person gets back to you and starts pitching something to you that you have no interest in. And then you respond back and say, thank you, I'm not interested. But it's always important to have those conversations.
Great. And, you know, we actually have one more question that's come in that is relevant at this time from Eric along the same lines. What advice and strategies do you find most effective in terms of connecting and building relationships?
So I think we're going to cover some of that too in another slide when I talk about connection requests. Okay, so stay tuned for that.
Okay, great. We will continue on with the presentation at this point then.
Thanks, everyone. Those are all fabulous questions. I really appreciate your participation in asking me things. And if we have time at the end, we can go through some more. But let's carry on to fact or fiction number 6. So, customizing your LinkedIn URL helps your profile show up higher in a browser's search results. Fact or fiction? So this is fact, okay? What I'm going to show you next is when you sign up for LinkedIn, on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see this is kind of what you get as your URL. It says linkedin.com/pub/your name and a bunch of numbers. what you want to do is have what you'll see here on the right side of the screen, which is linkedin.com/in/your-name, for a couple of reasons. One, it's easier for you to share if you want to put it in an email signature and you can't remember what's the link. All you have to remember is linkedin.com/in/your-name. It's easier to put on business cards, but it will also help you show up higher in a browser search results. Now, you'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen, when you type in your name and you hit save, if your name is not available, LinkedIn will say, sorry, that name is already taken. So if you have a popular name like John Doe and it's taken, then you should try John L. Doe, whatever your middle initial is, or J. L. Doe, until LinkedIn says, yes, that works. You may have noticed when you do a search on Google, if you search someone's name, what's showing up at the top of those results these days are LinkedIn profiles, Facebook profiles, Twitter profiles. So it really behooves you to go into your profile and customize your LinkedIn URL so that it's linkedin.com/in/your-name. So real quickly, I want to just review the first 4 mistakes that we've discussed so far. And those first 4 are, 1, not having a photo on your profile or your company page. And by the way, when we talk about professional photos, it depends on what your industry is. I have a client who's a professional chef. His photo is him standing in his white chef's coat with fruits and vegetables on a kitchen counter in a professional kitchen. That's totally appropriate for him. Now, you and a dog picture, well, unless you're a dog groomer or a dog sitter, probably not the best photo. That's more like a Facebook photo than a LinkedIn photo. Mistake number 2 is not optimizing your personal profile or your company page for keyword phrases. So again, I want you to think about, if someone doesn't know your name and they don't know your company, what keyword phrase might they search in LinkedIn that applies to you? Mistake number 3 is please go in and complete your summary section. Many people find, oh, I didn't do that. Why? Well, I didn't have time. Take the time. And another tip I didn't mention earlier, write your summary section in the first person. Make it personal, but remember, it's not all about you. It's a little bit about you and then how you help people. Mistake number 4 is not customizing your LinkedIn URL. So go into LinkedIn and change that. Okay, fact or fiction number 7. All you have to do is create a LinkedIn profile and people will interact with you. Fact or fiction? It's fiction. Okay, you saw earlier, I showed you a slide of Craig Newton. He had nothing on his profile. He had a profile, but there was nothing there. So why would people want to interact with him? Again, we go back to that know, like, and trust. And in order to create that, you need to get involved. So mistake number 5 is not getting involved when you're on LinkedIn. What does that mean? Getting involved on LinkedIn means liking, commenting, sharing other people's posts. The best one is commenting, because it shows people, it keeps you top of mind, keeps your name in front of them, because if you comment, even if you like, they will see your name pop up and it will say, Deborah Jason liked this post, or Deborah Jason commented on this post. So it's really important to engage with people. Remember that word engagement. By liking, commenting, and sharing other people's posts. Now, you can share your own information. You can put what we call an update, which is just a few lines, or maybe you share a motivational quote. But you can also go into LinkedIn and write an article. That's called a long form post, and then share that with people. And I believe one of the questions we had before the workshop today started was somebody said, well, what kind of information should I post on LinkedIn? 80% of what you share should be something of value. 20% of what you share, if you have a product or a service, should be promoting that service. So keep in mind to nurture those relationships. Somebody asked earlier about, well, how do I build those relationships? How do I make this happen? Share information that's of value to your audience. So if you have a business that you're promoting, share 3 tips for saving on your mortgage. Let's say you're a mortgage lender. Or 3 tips to generating leads on LinkedIn. Things that are of value, that not necessarily are pitchy, okay? Not salesy. Things that people will get value from. So let's move on to fact or fiction, and this answers somebody's question earlier about skills and endorsements. So listing skills that you want to be endorsed for is a waste of time on LinkedIn. Fact or fiction? So to answer the person's question from earlier, it's fiction. Skills and endorsements are important on your LinkedIn profile for a couple of reasons. One of the mistakes that people make is not including them, and LinkedIn pays attention to them. For one reason, that's important. So keep that in mind. But the other thing is there's a 13% increase in your profile views if you list skills on your profile. Now, when you go to someone's LinkedIn profile, what you'll see are the top 3 skills. You can have up to 50 skills, but only 3 will show before you see a button that says see more. By the way, this is another place for you to insert keyword phrases. So you can see copywriting is a keyword phrase, public speaking is a keyword phrase, social media marketing is a keyword phrase. This helps you build your social proof, helps you build your credibility and your authority in your industry. So it is important to have skills that you want to be endorsed for, and members that have 5 or more skills on their profiles are contacted 33 times more by other LinkedIn members. And these statistics come from LinkedIn. So skills are important, but what I want you to keep in mind, let me go back for 1 second. So I've mentioned 3 places to put your keyword phrases, and I want to reiterate that because it's really important. 1 is your professional headline. 1 is your summary or your about section, and the other is here in your skills section. But what I want to make sure you understand is skills and being endorsed for skills is different than what you're going to see on this next slide, which is a recommendation. Okay, so this is Angela. You saw her LinkedIn profile earlier. After we worked together, she posted a recommendation on LinkedIn. Very different than posting skills. So she shared her experience of working with me one-on-one doing her consult. This is Carolyn. Carolyn shared her experience after she attended a workshop that I presented that was about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn recommendations are like testimonials. Now, you can go to someone's profile. You need to be connected to them. You can go, for example, to my profile if we're connected, and you can write a recommendation. There's a button that you push to do that. Or if you are seeking recommendations, you can go to one of your connections, and there's a button that you click that says request a recommendation. Please remember I showed you several times now slides that say engage and get involved. This is one way you engage. You request a recommendation, but you don't use LinkedIn's generic form. You go in and you personalize it. You say, Deborah, I listened to your LinkedIn webinar today. I'm gathering some feedback from people who listened, and you were one of the attendees. Would you take a quick second and write a LinkedIn recommendation? And LinkedIn provides a link in that message that you send for people to then click on and write a recommendation. You then get to approve it and decide whether you want it to show up on your profile or you can hide it. You can also ask that person to change it. Very rarely do I ever ask someone who has taken the time to write a recommendation to go back and change what they wrote, unless I find like a glaring typo. I'm a copywriter by profession, so if there's something glaring, I might say to them, gee, you might want to fix that word, there's a typo in it. But I rarely ask people to change their recommendations because I appreciate that they even took the time to write one. So let's move on to fact or fiction number 9. If someone you don't know sends you a connection request on LinkedIn, you should ignore their invitation. And again, this was one of the questions I received before the webinar. So fact or fiction, what do you think the answer is to this one? This one is fiction. Now, LinkedIn will say don't accept connection requests from people you don't know. But I think the mistake that people make is ignoring invitations. You don't want to ignore those invitations because that person who's reaching out to you might be somebody who could be a good connection for you. That person could be a gatekeeper if you're looking for a job. And if we could forward on to the next slide, the mistake people make is ignoring invitations. And then the next slide is my colleague Vivica, who also speaks about LinkedIn. And we both agree that when it comes to a connection request, and by the way, this refers to if you get a request from somebody and they haven't personalized the request. So you just get this request from somebody you don't know and there's no message there. Here's what I tell you to do. Go to that person's profile first. Don't accept their invitation. Don't ignore it. Go to their profile first. See, who is this person? Maybe you have 15 people in common that they're connected to. Maybe that person is a gatekeeper either to a company that you want a job at or a gatekeeper for a company maybe that you want to do business with. So next step in this process is then go to, when you're on LinkedIn and you have a black navigation bar at the top of your profile, you click on My Network and you'll see this below, what you're seeing on the screen right now. You'll see the invitations you have received. Don't ignore them, don't accept them. In the upper right-hand corner, you see that arrow. I want you to click where it says See All. And then you'll see this next screen where you'll now have the ability to message that person. See the red arrow in the lower left? Now you can message them without connecting, okay, without using any in-mail credits. You can message that person, and here's one way to engage, to start a conversation. I'm going to give you a sample of what I would say to somebody. I would send them a message and say, "Hi, Mary. Thanks so much for reaching out on LinkedIn. But I'm curious, were you referred to me or were you simply searching LinkedIn? It helps me to know how people connect with me. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks a million, Deborah." So now I send that message out. I don't ignore their invitation. I'm now engaging with them. I'm starting a conversation with them. I don't accept the invitation. I wait to hear back from them. And then we're starting a conversation. Okay, so many times people might respond back to me and say, "Oh, Deborah, I'm sorry, I was on your webinar," or "I attended your workshop." Or they'll say, "Oh, Deborah, Amanda referred me to you." Now I can get back to them, and now I'm starting a conversation. Now I'm getting engaged with that person, and then I can decide whether to accept or ignore. So let's go to the final point in fact or fiction. Number 10 is the biggest mistake professionals make on LinkedIn is treating it like a dating site. Fact or fiction? Well, the answer is fiction. It actually might be a mistake some people make, but it's not the biggest mistake. And what I want to share with you is a small example. I've been on LinkedIn for some time, and twice did I receive messages from somebody I didn't know, so I sent them my standard message of, were you referred to me or were you searching LinkedIn? both times I got a very similar message, which was, each was from a gentleman that said they were a widower, that they had 3 kids, and they were looking for a mother and a wife, somebody to help raise their children. Very simply, what did I do? I said, this is not a dating site. Swipe left. I deleted their request. So it is a mistake that some people make, but it's not the biggest mistake. Now, before we move on to what is the biggest mistake, I want to share with you a LinkedIn checklist. It's a 10-point checklist. If you're interested in receiving it, I want you to pull out your smartphone or your tablet and text 10 points, all one word. It could be upper or lowercase. Text 10 points to the number 66866. And you'll get a checklist so that you can sit down with your profile and go through and see if you're covering those 10 points that are on the 10-point checklist. So let's leave that up there for a second or two more. I'll show you that slide again before we go on to the biggest mistake. So, what is the biggest mistake people make on LinkedIn? This is my philosophy on it, and I have several LinkedIn colleagues who agree with me. The biggest mistake people make is when it comes to connecting and they don't personalize their connection request. Now, there's a couple of things I want to cover here. This refers right now to your laptop or your desktop. What I want you to do when you want to connect with somebody is always go to their profile first. You might have noticed on LinkedIn, there's a sidebar that says people have also viewed these profiles, or here are some people you might want to connect with. Don't hit the connect button from there because LinkedIn will just send out a generic message. You won't be able to personalize it. If you go to someone's profile and hit connect, you'll see this. You'll see a message that says, LinkedIn members are more likely to accept invitations that include a personal note. So I want you to hit that little button that says add a note and be short and sweet. Say, Deborah, I listened to your webinar and I'd like to stay in touch with you. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Or I met you at a conference and I enjoyed talking about your kids and their soccer game. Let's stay in touch on LinkedIn. Take the time to write a personal note. Now, I want to make sure remember, this is when you're on your desktop, on your laptop. It's different when you are on your smartphone or a tablet. What you're seeing on the screen now is when you're on a smartphone or a tablet, do not hit connect. I still want you to go to that person's profile, but don't hit connect. You're either going to see a box that says more with 3 little dots, or you might just see a box that has 3 little dots. When you click on that, you'll see the box that you're seeing on the right-hand side of this screen. And you'll notice by the green arrow, it says personalize invite. So now you can send a personalized invitation. Okay, now what I want you to remember is ditch the pitch. This is not the place for you to reach out to someone and say, buy my stuff, I have something I want to sell you, you should buy my stuff, please buy my stuff. This is where you start a conversation. This is where you start to engage. This is where you start to build and nurture relationships. And I will show you in a few moments some results that people have with LinkedIn. But let's review the 7 common mistakes, okay, and the bonus one. So number 1, include a photo, a professional-looking photo on your personal profile and on your company page. Number 2, include keyword phrases, again, on your personal profile page. So one place to put that is your professional headline should have keyword phrases. Your summary should have keyword phrases. Your skills should have keyword phrases. There's 3 other places for that keyword phrases to be placed. We don't have time to go through them all today. Number 3, complete your summary section. And now on LinkedIn, you'll also see that they call it about. Remember, you have 2,000 characters, not 2,000 words. 2,000 characters. Don't make it one really long paragraph, Break it up into short paragraphs, bullet points, but not just bullet points. I believe one of the questions I got before the webinar is, how do I put in bullet points from my resume? Your summary section, remember, is about you and how you help people. Your job descriptions below under your current and your work experience, that's where you talk more about what you've achieved in that job. By the way, real quickly, LinkedIn likes you to have at least 2 jobs listed in your experience section. So a current job and a past job. Keep that in mind. Point number 4, don't forget to customize your LinkedIn URL. Customizing it helps you show up higher in a browser's search results when somebody's searching on Google or any other browser. Mistake number 5 is please get involved and engaged. So like other people's posts, comment on their posts, share their posts, or post your own updates, post your own articles, but have those conversations and build and nurture relationships. How to avoid mistake number 6? Well, that is list the specific skills that you want to be endorsed for. Don't leave it up to LinkedIn. LinkedIn will pop up a box on when you visit somebody's profile and say, do you want to endorse Deborah for? And it'll give you 3 or 4 choices. So pick the choice that applies to that person, but you, on your own profile, put down the keyword phrases that apply to your skills. Number 7, don't ignore invitations to connect. Remember, go to that person's profile first, read about them, find out something about them. Do you have common connections? Are they in a common industry? Are they working at a company where you want to work? That person might be a great connection for you, so don't ignore those invitations to connect. And how to avoid mistake number 8 is personalize those LinkedIn invitations. Now, personalized doesn't mean you just go in and add their name and say, Deborah, I want to connect. Personalizing means reach out, and maybe you found them on LinkedIn. That's okay. Say, I was searching LinkedIn, and I found you for professional speaking, and I'm going to be putting together a conference, and I'm interested in staying in touch with you. Or, Deborah, I met you at a conference, and I love the tips that you shared. I want to stay in touch with you. Remember, personalize your LinkedIn invitations. Now, I want to go over some of the results that people have gotten using LinkedIn so that you know that this is a tool. It's a marketing tool and a networking tool that really can make a difference. This is a marketing student who wrote 2 long-form articles. In them, she detailed her internships that she had with the Nashville Predators hockey team. She got 2,000 clicks and views, and as a result was contacted by several professionals in the sports industry. Now keep in mind, this is not an overnight sensation, okay? This takes time to build and nurture these relationships to start seeing results. In the next slide, what you'll see is an author. He wanted to speak at a writers' conference, but he didn't know how to contact the director. He found the director's name and found the director on LinkedIn. Again, after nurturing the relationship, okay, he was invited to join the faculty of the conference. So nurturing the relationship is the important phrase to remember in here. The next one is from a realtor. She is in Manhattan, and she received interview requests from individuals with real estate-related podcasts, both in the U.S. and overseas, and that was one of her goals. Very important to think, why am I on LinkedIn? What's my goal for being here? She had a goal not only of finding real estate clients and prospects, but her goal was also to get on podcasts. How did she do that? She was sharing valuable information about real estate on LinkedIn. She was also had a goal of being on a board of directors for a nonprofit. She was contacted by somebody at a nonprofit to serve on a board. And as you'll see, she also did receive requests from potential buyers to help them find property in the Big Apple, which is where she was working. But that's not all. There are more results. So the first one was a gentleman who connected with a former colleague. He found this colleague online. They hadn't been in touch in a while. He reached out. He did not reach out and pitch the colleague. He just said, "Hey, Joe, how have you been? What are you up to?" Joe, okay, then when he found out what his friend was doing, his friend was a financial advisor, Joe said, "Oh my God, I have a referral for you." So he reached out to a former colleague. The colleague didn't give him his direct business, but the colleague referred him to somebody. Remember that know, like, and trust? The colleague said, "Here's somebody that you should reach out to," and that landed him a $70 million account. As opposed to the next one, which is important for those of you who are Leeds alumni, connect with your alumni. So in this case, this financial advisor did a search on LinkedIn of his alumni. However, he got so many results that he then filtered it down and used the word architecture because architecture was something he was interested in. So that narrowed down his search for the person who was asking about how specific should you be. This gentleman searched his alumni, then filtered it by architecture. And as a result, again, he did not automatically get 33 clients. He nurtured the relationships and ended up with $15 million in coverage, okay, using LinkedIn and nurturing those relationships. The third person shared valuable content. You probably have heard me say this more than once in the webinar. When you're saying, what do I post? Share valuable content. It could be your own content. If you have a blog, share that content onto LinkedIn. It could be someone else's content. The value when you share someone else's content is that then you stay top of mind with that person whose content you're sharing. But in this case, an Arizona contractor shared valuable content, and he ended up expanding his subcontractor base. So he was sharing tips and pointers that were based on his industry and his business as a contractor. He had people starting to respond, and that gave him exposure to some vendors. He wanted more vendors that he could put into his database as subcontractors. So that's just a small sampling of some of the results that you can get. What I want you to think about is this TEDx talk by a gentleman of the name David Burkus. David did a TEDx talk based on networking. Now, what David's theory is you don't need to be cold calling and prospecting with people that you don't know, but you should look at friends of friends of friends of friends. So, for example, Bob Berg, who I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, in the Go Giver series, he talks about each of us on the average have about 250 connections. So if you connect with me, it doesn't mean you automatically have those 250 connections. However, when you start to engage with my posts, whether you like them, comment, share them, you're starting to get in front of the eyes of my other connections. You may have noticed sometimes on your LinkedIn home feed, you'll see something pop up and you'll go, why am I seeing that feed from John Doe? I'm not connected to John Doe, but maybe John Doe is connected to somebody and you are connected to that somebody. And that person liked or commented on John Doe's post. And you're seeing it now because the two of you, it's that first, second, and third degree of connections. So check out davidburkus.com/TEDx because it's valuable information he shares about taking advantage of friends of friends of friends. So we've covered a lot of information here today. I want to know, before you hang up, what is one change that you're going to make to maximize your LinkedIn experience? Maybe you need to add or change your photo. Maybe you need to go back and look and see, ooh, am I using keyword phrases? So now you're going to go back and incorporate keyword phrases in your profile. Oh, maybe you haven't even written a summary section. So now you're going to go back and do that. Or maybe it's time to customize your LinkedIn URL. Answer the poll and say what's just one thing you're going to do next. Great. So 34% of you are going to go back and check out your profile and incorporate keyword phrases. 22% of you need to add that summary section. Again, remember, it's really important to share a little bit about who you are and how you help people. And then awesome for the 32% that are going to customize your LinkedIn URL. And for those of you who don't have a photo, go out and put up something that looks professional, okay? Put on something nice, stand with a nice background and ask someone to take your photo, or find a photographer who would do it. Many photographers these days do it quite affordably. So thank you for participating in that poll, and I hope you'll take that step either as soon as you get off of today's call or at least within the next week while it's still fresh in your mind. So as we move forward, I want to offer you, I do one-on-one LinkedIn consultations. I sit down with you and your laptop and we go over your profile. We make sure it's optimized for keyword phrases. We talk about different ways for you to engage, and I answer your questions. It is a 2-hour session that takes place here in Boulder, or if you're listening in today and you're not here in Boulder, we can do it via Skype. There is an investment. It's usually $400, but for those who are listening in today, it's $250. So what I want you to do, if you're interested, is email me at Deborah@rightdirection.com. That's Deborah at WRITE, rightdirection.com, and put in the subject line that you're interested. Keith is someone who I worked with, and he said he learned more in those 2 hours than he did in 6 months on his own. So keep that in mind. Many people I find attend my workshops and they say, I'm going to go make these changes, and then they fall short. So the benefit of sitting down with somebody is actually getting it done. So last but not least, just a little reminder, if you want that 10-point LinkedIn checklist, text 10 points to 66866. The checklist goes over some of the things that we talked about today, and then a few more things in addition to that. And again, 10 points could be upper or lower case, and when you text that to 66866, that will be the heads up to get you that checklist. That covers what we have for you today. I am Deborah Jason. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to attend today's program. These are the many ways that you can find me online. And Amanda, I don't know if we have time, but you tell me if there are some questions that we have time for. I'm happy to go over some. How are we on that?
Great. Thank you so much, Deborah. It is 1 o'clock, so if anybody needs to drop off, this is the end of the presentation, but we are going to stay on for an additional 5 minutes because we've had some great questions come through. So we will start fielding those now. The first question, in your opinion, is it worth paying for the premium account to see who looks at your profile, or for any other reason?
Great question. So here's what I tell people about paying for the premium account. The first question I ask back is, are you using LinkedIn? I mean, have you been active on LinkedIn? So if you have and you feel like you have a good grasp of it, you might consider the premium. But keep in mind, with the free account, and everything that I discussed today refers to the basic free account, okay? With the free account, you can see the last 5 people who viewed your profile. Now, that assumes that they're viewing it in their public mode. Some people can set the setting to private, and so then you won't be able to, you'll see a message that says somebody viewed your profile. So if you want to get access to more than that, If you pay for the premium account, then you get access to the last 90 days. You'll see the last 90 days of people who have viewed your profile. So if that's important to you, then you might want to try the premium account. But I really encourage people to make sure they're on LinkedIn and taking advantage of it to the best of their ability before they start paying for it. And then if you want to, LinkedIn usually offers 30 days free. You can try the premium account. And then you can either join month to month. It costs a little bit more when you do it monthly. If you join for the year, then your price per month goes down. So keep those points in mind.
Great. Thank you. And then we have a few questions. Could you go over one more time how to customize your URL?
Oh, so to actually do that, we'd need to actually go on LinkedIn to show you. But when you go to your LinkedIn profile, you have to go to your settings and you know what, for people who have that question, you can email me because it's really difficult to explain it. You have to be on a profile and show you that. We can maybe do another webinar where we actually are online and I can show you that.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that follow-up. And then we have two questions, age-related questions. The first is, I know that age discrimination exists. By posting a photo where viewers can see my graying hair, I feel people might be more likely to pass over my profile because of my age. Is there a certain type of photo I should post? Black and white, for example.
You can go ahead and post a black and white photo. I mean, you're still going to see that that person has gray hair. And sadly, I have a tendency to agree with you because I have colleagues that feel like they are experiencing ageism. However, people are more and more these days, people are searching online before they meet you or even after they meet you, and LinkedIn profiles are showing up. So it's better to have some picture than no picture at all. Really, what you need to make sure that you do have, in addition to that photo, is an optimized profile that gives them an idea of who you are and how you help them. Very important point, when you're applying for jobs, you know, some job sites say, you know, apply for this job using your LinkedIn profile. I strongly recommend that you actually fill out their forms instead of just directing someone to LinkedIn. They still may go to your LinkedIn profile, but writing a cover letter and sharing something that's a little bit more personal than just filling out the LinkedIn form is something that I think works in your favor, especially if you're concerned about the fact that you are older and in that age bracket. It is a challenge these days, and I say that basically because I do have colleagues that have said, you know, I feel like I'm not getting the job because I have the experience, but and that's even without photos. So keep in mind also, someone might look at your photo and go, you have gray hair. My grandfather was gray at a very early age, and some people are gray at a very early age. But what they will find out, for example, on a resume, they'll look and see, well, you've been at that job for 20 years, so you're not necessarily 20 years old anymore. It's, you know, it's an issue. I don't know quite how you can overcome it. Obviously, as you said, you know, it's not legal for people to turn you away because of that, but there's no real way other than trying to show your value. Always try your best to show your value and what you bring to a company as a potential employee.
Great. Thank you for that, Deborah. We are on to our final two questions. Continuing on the age theme, does it hurt young adult professionals to have high school and high school accomplishments listed?
No, because if you're young and, you know, some don't have a whole lot of work experience. So I tell people that, because I've spoken at the Lead School for one of the business classes, and we've done a session on LinkedIn. And if you've been very involved in an organization or if you've done volunteer work, there are sections on LinkedIn for you to add volunteer positions you've held, because that shows your skills. There is a space on LinkedIn for you to show any awards maybe that you've won. So again, that goes back to that robust and optimized profile. So if you're young and you've got some accomplishments like that, share those. Definitely.
Great. And then our final question, do my contacts receive an email saying that my profile was updated? I want to understand what is being shared as I make some of these changes that are being recommended.
So again, there's a setting in LinkedIn when you go to make changes to your profile, and we'd have to go online for me to show you this, but whoever's asking that question, you can email me and I can do my best to explain that to you. When you are making changes to your LinkedIn profile, there is a setting that you go into that says, notify my connections of any changes I make to my profile, or don't notify them. So if you're just going into your LinkedIn profile today and you're going to add some keyword phrases, you don't want all your connections to be notified, turn that setting to off. But if you're adding something like a new position or a new award or something, and you do want people to be notified, turn that link on. So again, it's in your settings that you can turn that off and turn it on so that people aren't always notified every time you make a change to your profile.
Great. That is great information to have. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us for today's presentation, and a special thank you again to Deborah for this great information. To view upcoming webinars and request previous recordings, please visit our website at colorado.edu/alumni/webinars. Have a great rest of your day, and go Buffs!